Powered by Riverside FM.
Cattle mutilations, UFO sightings, and whispers of ancient curses. Skinwalker Ranch. It's a place shrouded in mystery, a hotbed of paranormal activity, and the subject of countless investigations. Join us this week as we delve into the chilling and enigmatic tales and unexplained phenomena of this infamous Utah property. Tonight on Newsworthy, two words.
He's alive! Have you checked the children? Get out!
You have scoured the podcast world and finally found us. Newsworthy with Steve and Jerry, where we delve into all things mysterious, macabre, or out of this world, and decide if they are truly newsworthy. Two words and two question marks.
Hello, I'm Ed Locke with USA Mortgage. Tax season is upon us. Did you know that 47% of Americans are planning to use their tax refunds for everyday expenses, home improvements, and vacations? What if you used your tax refund for a new home instead? Again, this is Ed Locke with USA Mortgage. Your tax refund can be used towards down payment, closing costs, or paying down existing debt to help get approved. So before you spend that tax refund, let's get together and see how to best utilize those funds to invest in your future and your new home. Call or text me at 502-680-0953. Again, that's 502-680-0953. NMLS ID 448-9808, Das Acquisitions, LLC, doing business as USA Mortgage, NMLS ID 227262. This is not a commitment to lend. Additional terms and conditions apply. USA Mortgage is an equal housing lender.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Welcome to Newsworthy. Two words, two question marks.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
Steve. Who are you?
Jerry, you forgot who I was? After all these years, I have
No,
to tell you.
I was letting you introduce yourself, sir. And
I'm Brett.
Brett. I just realized our numbers continue to grow, and sometimes people may not pick up on who we are. So,
Yeah.
Steve, Jerry, Brett.
You can check us out on YouTube. We have our names on the bottom.
Yeah, YouTube, Twitch, we're on all the things,
But, yeah.
all the little things out there in the
Spotify.
world. Spotify,
Apple.
Apple, wherever you got it. Man, we got a good topic today, but I was really, it looks like UK won.
Hey.
Good job. I was
Can't
really,
believe we didn't reschedule for that, though.
I'm really upset with my mom today.
Why?
Why?
Gosh, I'm so mad at my mom.
Surely not.
I am.
Say it ain't so.
Your
Joe.
mom's such a sweet lady.
Okay, I wasn't even ready for that.
That was
I-
rude.
Listen,
That was rude.
I literally called her
What was
today.
the twins on that one show? How rude.
I literally called her
Full House.
today and asked her to come pick me up. I was tired of my sleepover. You know what she told me?
What'd she say?
She goes, Steve, you're 49. That's your wife and your children. You don't get to go home from that.
I like it. I like that one. Best one you've had for a while.
That was a good
Oh,
one.
thanks. Big hearts.
Big heart.
So you guys had a good week?
Mm.
Very good week. Except for the snow. You could
Oh,
do without
my
that.
gosh.
This has been the worst winter I can remember.
Listen,
Literally. For weather-wise.
speaking of winter, I had a call from Joe Perez. He is the co-owner of Smoking Gun Beef Jerky, or
Okay.
Smoking Gun Jerky in Lincoln, Nebraska. They had like so much snow, their foot traffic completely stopped. So they're a good sponsor for us. They really help us out. We often eat their jerky. We just ordered a whole crap ton
We
more.
did, yeah.
You need to start watching us on Twitch if you want to see that
Yeah,
live and in
we
person.
Oh
test-
man, let me just show you all this.
We test new jerky just about every week or every couple of weeks on Twitch. So check that out. But guys, seriously, their foot traffic at their store has pretty much all but stopped. So go online right now, Smoke and Gun Jerky. Order you some jerky, some seasoning. They have instructions on how to make jerky. Put in the code Cryptid10 and get an awesome discount on some great products and help them out. They are a mom and pop. They're a growing business, but we love having them as a sponsor, and we want you to help them help us. So,
And we also love the quality of the product. We're not
Absolutely.
just saying that because they are sponsoring us. It truly is the highest quality jerky I've ever saw in my entire life.
when
It's super good.
and some people are going to come on here and you're going to hear ads. We literally buy what we don't ask them for freebies. We buy what we want because we enjoy their product.
Yeah.
It's that good.
And like you said, we just bought a buttload.
We spent over $50 tonight just on jerky.
Yeah. So we'll be trying them, and hopefully you tune in on Twitch and you can.
Yeah,
see
so
that.
check them out. They are a small mom and pop. When their business closes up, when they can't get customers in the door, they rely on us to get them orders. So order them up.
I will say I tried Can't Fix Stupid tonight, and let me just tell you, it was hot.
A little bit.
Was it
A
hot?
little bit.
It was
Not
it was
a
hot.
little bit.
It
That
was
was
hot.
boiling.
When you're eating,
lava.
I was eating, and I love hot stuff. But I was making fun of Steve
Yeah.
the last week just because.
And
he
you
was,
ate it fine. It was afterwards.
Oh my! It was after that. It just hit me, and my sinuses started just draining. My eyes were
He
watering.
was crying.
I
It
was-
was so hot.
I was crying. Oh man! Did you guys celebrate Valentine's Day?
I did. I got a cool. Let me put it this way. This is something that we very rarely ever celebrate. And this year,
us too. Same way.
and this year it was so funny because we got out of bed and we both put bags on the table.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
it was like, what? Wait, what?
That's cool.
Yeah. So.
So for Valentine's Day, my wife gave me a supersized bath bomb.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it just looks suspiciously like a toaster.
Smart woman you got there. Smart woman. And you wondered why the week before she was updating your life insurance. I like it, Miss Truly.
I was wondering why she was trying to downsize homes. I get it now. That's
Very
wonderful.
nice.
That was good. 2 for
Very
2. How about that?
That's right.
Let's hope Jerry doesn't.
I'm sure I can end this
Take
streak.
it. Oh, we don't
Sure.
doubt that.
You usually have the funniest one.
What has 4 letters, sometimes has 9 letters, but never has 5 letters?
Oh,
What?
jeez.
What has 4 letters, sometimes has 9 letters, but never has 5 letters?
No, that's the joke. What has 4 letters?
WHAT, 4,
Yeah.
sometimes is 9.
He
never is
absolutely
5.
ended the streak. That was terrible.
What's sometimes 9? I don't get.
Sometimes
You have to explain this.
OMETIMES
Oh, sometimes-
has
oh my
9
gosh.
letters.
terrible. Oh, you had all week, Jerry. Come on now.
I
Since
stand
both of
by
us who
my
just
joke.
got our dad joke right before this.
Shh.
He
I
was the
stand by
to be
that
fair,
dad joke.
Jerry was the only one that had a dad joke before we started.
And it still sucked.
Oh man!
But I knew as soon as I read it, I was like, Steve will never get this. So I was like, I gotta do it.
You know what's funny is he got it and I didn't.
What the? Ouch. I can feel the love. Gosh.
Oh, me.
We got a good topic tonight, though.
Thank goodness.
Better than that joke.
So we're going to be rebranding Newsworthy to Newsworthy with Steve and Brett.
Don't do that.
I'm
We'll
just
lose
kidding.
views. Wait, what? That sounds
I have
terrible.
said we should do this for a long time.
Jerry, you are an integral part of
Integral.
what we do here.
Integral part in making sure that it crashes and burns.
No.
Whenever you guys have some enthusiasm and start promoting one of your conspiracy theories, and I start throwing water on it,
There has
yes,
not been.
that does
There
not
is.
help our
There has
listening
literally
audience.
been one thing that you've actually done that convinced me that okay, that's stupid.
What was
One, huh?
Do you remember what it was?
I absolutely remember what it was.
That would bother me if it were not coming from a man that earlier this very evening
You talking about the mirror?
pulled out his phone and said, "Please explain this. Why is it that the mirror knows what's happening even when you hide something from it?" So in other words, if you were to hold up something in front of a mirror and you were to make some gesture, Mr. Steve believes that the mirror on the other side can see exactly what you're doing.
I'm just saying, mirrors have been long thought to be portals to another dimension.
By a certain group of people who cannot be convinced by any amount of facts you give them. Yes. Point in case.
Man,
See, this is
Rough
why we have
start.
big hearts for Jerry.
that's what I was saying.
Anyway, the one that you actually convinced me to change my mind was Loch Ness.
That
To
is
be
so
honest.
not true.
What?
I've told this story many times and you don't begin to deny it. You were one of the most conservative, right-wing people I know.
Yes.
When I met him, he was one of the most liberal, left-wing people I've ever met.
Yep.
And I take great pride in knowing I had a little bit to do with that change. Did I not?
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit.
That's far bigger than Loch Ness
But
Monster.
that's not what the context was. We were talking about context
Conspiracy
of
theories.
conspiracy theories and stuff of that nature. That's really the only one.
Liberalism is not a conspiracy theory. I
No,
think we
it's
established
actually
that long
real,
ago.
and it's trying to attempt. Never mind. We don't do politics anymore, Jerry.
Thankfully.
Yeah, because your guy lost, and it's okay.
That's why we quit doing politics. And who would my guy be, by the way?
Oh, you know.
Mr. Joe.
Mr. Joe. Says the man that has voted for Democrats for president.
Oh, and Mr. Kamala. I forgot about that. Mr. Kamala, too.
Mm.
All right.
Anyway.
Anyways.
Thank you, Brett. See, this is why Brett's a great boon to be here.
Yeah. You like him because he agrees with you. You like him because he believes in more conspiracy theories than you do.
Listen, mine are backed up by evidence.
Yeah.
We're going to
Like
look at that
tonight.
evidence tonight.
Tonight's evidence.
We shall see.
All right.
Tonight we're talking about Skinwalker Ranch.
We are?
Yep.
Yeah,
Have we covered this before?
we have not. It
We
is
covered
brand new to us.
Skinwalkers.
We covered Skinwalkers.
Okay. Because I was like, I thought
Which
we should cover this. But
we
when I was
did that
researching,
in
I was
a-
like, this doesn't seem
It was part of a triad that we did, and it was basically about the Native American Skinwalkers that actually, they take on these abilities, but they leave and they have to give up all basically of their humanity to do it. The shamans.
Which has a little bit to do with the origins of the
little
history
bit,
of this
yeah.
ranch.
Yeah.
the name.
Utah. Tell us a little bit about Skinwalker Ranch. Who wants to start this tonight?
Well, if we want to do history, I think I'm covering that. First of all, for those that didn't listen to our episode on Skinwalkers, since it is the first part of the name of the ranch, Skinwalkers in Native American folklore was a shape-shifting witch that could take the form of an animal. Now, the area around the Skinwalker Ranch, and including the ranch, had a long history in legends like this, which is why it got its name originally. Stories of shape-shifting creatures and malevolent spirits far predates any modern ranch activity. Even early Spanish explorers also documented strange occurrences in the area, which also helped contribute to the region's reputation, not just the ranch itself, but the region. Now, from the 50s through the 90s, this ranch was owned by it's called the Ballard and the Myers era. It was initially owned by the Ballard family, followed by the Myers family. And during this time, stories of weird, strange things began to circulate. Some of the accounts were sightings of unusual creatures, unidentified flying objects, UFOs, cattle mutilations, poltergeist activity. Now, these stories may have been anecdotal, but they also greatly helped contribute to the growing mystique of the ranch. And if I can find my place after I slipped. The next era came when the Shermans brought the ranch. Terry and Gwen Sherman in 1994 purchased the 480 ranch, and their experiences only intensified the focus of the paranormal activity. During this time, they reported a wide range of strange occurrences, including large numbers of livestock mutilation. Cows were found dead with surgically precise excisions, seemingly drained of blood. UFO sightings. They reported seeing unusual lights and objects in the sky. Strange creatures. They described encounters with wolf-like creatures, large bird-like beings, and other unidentified animals. They also reported poltergeist activity. The Bigelow era came next from 1996 till pretty recent, 2016. Robert Bigelow, an aerospace entrepreneur, purchased the ranch in 1996. He had a company called the Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies, and he was also the founder of the National Institute for Discovery Science. And when he bought it, he began to do scientific investigations. He had heard enough stories of the ranch that he believed that there was some really strange, weird things going on, which is why he purchased the ranch in the first place. And he began funding extensive scientific investigations of the ranch. He employed scientists, researchers, and even security personnel. And they used various technologies to monitor the property and document any unusual activity. There was a small amount of information that was leaked or shared through various channels, but most of the research and findings that they uncovered, if any, remained confidential. They never released them. In 2016, the ranch was sold to Mr. Brandon Fugel, a real estate investor and entrepreneur. He and his team continued the investigations, although they had an even greater emphasis on privacy. When I read that, I wondered, how much greater could you get? The other guys did extensive scientific investigations and released nothing. So either they had a huge emphasis on privacy or they found nothing to begin with. Anyway, Mr. Fugel and his associates continued the scientific investigations. Bottom line, and again, they again as well have released basically nothing if it was found.
Well, or they found something and the government's shutting it up.
Yeah. As Bob Lazar claims happens with many things, right?
Bob Lazar doesn't claim that. Bob Lazar only claims to do what Bob Lazar did.
Listen,
Bob Lazar doesn't claim that the government shuts things down. That's one of his primary defenses.
Shut him
Get
down.
Bob Lazar's name out of your mother effing mouth.
Right?
I would, except there is a direct tie-in that we'll get to later that brings him into it. Two last things I want to talk about. It is worth noting that despite the number of scientific investigations that have been performed at the ranch during the Bigelow and Fugel eras, no scientifically accepted evidence has been released. None. Although, as Mr. Brett just said, there is a possibility that their government shut it all down. Of course, there's also the possibility that Putin shut it all down, right? That's another possibility. Just saying it could have happened. Now, with that being said, it should also be noted that in 2005, a book came out. Colm Keller and co-author George Knapp published a book called Hunt for the Skywalker. The book was read by Defense Intelligence Agency official James Lakatsky. He contacted Bigelow, obtained permission to visit the ranch. He had a supernatural experience there. He did not describe it, but it was important enough to him that he relayed the information to his friend Harry Reid, the United States Senator from Nevada. Harry Reid met with Ted Stevens, a United States Senator from Alaska. They agreed that the ranch deserved more attention, and they added a line in a Department of Defense budget appropriating $22 million to study unidentified aerial phenomena in the area. So, there was enough to get them to want to spend $22 million. Whatever that was, and we will probably never know.
Jerry is the kind of person that believes the moon is just the moon. that it's not hollow, that it doesn't have
Not
a
made of
base on the other
cheese.
side.
Jeez.
Nobody believes it's made out of cheese.
Hey, people
Oh,
did
really?
back in the
When
day.
did you stop promoting that one?
Oh, Jerry, you brought up George Knapp. Let's talk about George Knapp for a little bit, if you will. Is that
Let's.
okay with you?
Yeah.
So, George Knapp is an investigative journalist, prominent reporter, and has had significant connection to Skinwalker Ranch, largely through his work investigating and publicizing all of the strange phenomena associated with this particular site. Knapp's involvement in the ranch has helped bring attention to its mysterious events, and he played a key role in uncovering many details about the ranch's history and the research that was done there. George Knapp is a researched, not an investigative journalist by heart, by trade. That's what he does. He asks questions.
Yeah.
And if you listen to Coast, which you were making fun of earlier,
Yes.
but he asked good questions. It's not like he
Well, I made
just
fun of
buys
it because
in.
it is a paranormal talk show.
So are we.
No. He promotes paranormal activity.
Hey, when's the last
You
time
do.
you've listened?
I don't.
When have you listened to a Coast episode?
I've listened to several of them.
Okay, cool. As long as you
I
have.
thought you
that's
never
good.
listened to a podcast.
No, that's
It's a
not
talk
really
show.
a podcast. That's a talk show.
It's a
And he
AM
doesn't sleep, so
What
that's
is the
why.
difference between a podcast?
It's
and
on
a
the
talk-
radio. AM radio was a talk show. What is the difference?
He's almost got as many viewers as we do.
First of all, I had never listened to any podcast ever until Steve called me and said, "Hey, you want to start a podcast?" None.
And he's like, "What?"
So I would argue that a talk show is just
They're very similar. I'm not saying it's
the
very different.
yeah, it's just a
the
podcast
main
on the
difference
radio.
is we have a lot more freedom.
Yeah.
You know, we're
Ah,
not.
so, yeah.
So
You know,
Well, it's
just
just a podcast on the radio, essentially.
Yeah.
That's
So-
what it seems like to me.
In the early 1990s, Knapp began investigating the reports of the strange activity at Skinwalker Ranch, located in northeastern Utah. A lot of weird stuff goes on in Utah. The ranch became famous for its bizarre occurrences, including UFO sightings, as you said, cattle mutilations, cryptid sightings, such as the shape-shifting skinwalkers of Native American lore, and some poltergeist-like phenomena. Knapp, however, first became involved at Skinwalker Ranch when he began searching a series of unusual incidents that had been reported by the Sherman family, who had owned the ranch at the time. The Shermans had experienced a variety of strange events: unexplainable lights, large animals appearing and then disappearing, and the mutilation of their stock. Now, the mutilation and the animal mutilations, those are police reported. Those are, that's not just something, hey, somebody's called somebody and said. Police actually came out to the ranch, they investigated, they seen that there was a carcass of an
mutilated
animal. Right.
But the origins of
so
it is
I'm gonna
disputed.
actually go against that. So the article that I looked at, so the original article the Deseret News put out, and it was basically highlighting all, like Terry and I believe the wife's name was Gwen.
Yep.
Gwen Sherman. They went to the Deseret News, and in June 30th of 1996, they published an article where it talked about the things that they had claimed that they had seen. It was kind of funny because I was actually not born in 1996, believe it or not. But it was talking about how like extraterrestrials were big in pop culture, and actually, what's the Will Smith movie? Independence Day. Independence Day was coming out this week. The article came out, which is cool.
Have you ever seen that movie?
Of course I have.
I'm just checking.
Of course
I
not.
wasn't even born in 1996. I'm just making sure.
So I want to go through. I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to go through some of the things that they had seen, or that they were quoted as of seeing, because they specifically the Deseret News newspaper, I guess, as the news company. They talked to the sheriff of the county that Skinwalker Ranch is located in, and they also talked to another county adjacent to Skinwalker Ranch, and both sheriffs said that they had not received any reportings of mutilated cows or UFO sightings in the time that the Shermans had lived on the ranch.
So exactly what I would say if I was running for re-election as a elected officer.
I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying.
Just saying.
He's saying Putin shut it down.
I don't know why Putin has anything to do with Skinwalker Ranch.
So just going off of some of the UFO sightings they saw. So, quote, for a long time we wondered what we were seeing, if it was something to do with a top secret project. This is Terry Sherman talking. So initially, all these things started happening, and they thought that there was the government trying to take over their land. That's what they had thought. It's some sort of government project that's going on that we just don't know about. According to the article, the Shermans, including their teenage son and 10-year-old daughter, had seen 3 different types of UFOs repeatedly during their time at the ranch. So they lived on the ranch from 1994 to 1996, eventually selling it. So one of the aircraft they saw was a small box-like craft with a white light. Another was a 40-foot long object that flew across the sky. Another was a huge ship the size of several football fields. One craft that they saw emitted a wavy red light or light beam as it flew over them. And then there was another that had airborne lights and had emerged from orange circular doorways that seemed to appear in midair. They supposedly had a few on video, but once I read that, I tried to find the videos. Jerry, do you think I found those videos?
Of course not.
I did not find them.
But I can tell you why.
The government
Putin made them
confiscated
go
them.
away.
That's what I literally wrote that down. The government must have confiscated. So they once discovered 3 circles of flattened grass, each about 8 feet across in a triangular pattern about 30 feet from each other. So crop circle. I also tried to look up and see if there were any particular pictures taken. I couldn't find any. They might exist, but I couldn't find them. One of the lights followed Gwen's car on her way home from work one night, and while out in one of the fields with the family dogs. So Terry and Gwen have repeatedly seen these different objects floating in the air, following them. One incident, Terry had heard male voices speaking in an unfamiliar language. The voices seemed to be about 25 feet from him, but Terry couldn't see anything. His dogs that were with him had acted frantic at the time and started barking and growling before running off to the house. In April of 1995, Terry stepped out of the house to check on a cow that was calving when he noticed the lights in the field. He thought they had been recreational vehicles, but the ranch is isolated 3 miles off the main road, and access is cut off by a creek and a huge rock ridge. It went just above where they had found a mutilated cow shortly after, and then over the trees that stood over 40 to 50 feet tall. Gwen had, in another incident, saw an object that looked like headlights, and there was a red glowing circle that, quote, lit the whole side of the mountain up like broad daylight. Terry and his son believed they communicated with one of the aircraft. They saw a lighted object duck behind a rock ridge as if it was avoiding them. They claimed to have snuck up on the object and waved their arms at it. The light flashed on and off 3 times and then disappeared. So Steve talked about mutilated cattle. The Shermans claimed to have had cows mysteriously die or disappear. 4 of them were never found. The others were found and had been partially mutilated. Sherman said that they would see the crafts and then find the cattle shortly after. Several other ranchers had told Sherman that when their cattle had been mutilated, that the authorities couldn't do anything, so it was a waste of time and effort to involve them. One cow was found dead in a field with a hole in the center of its left eyeball, but otherwise untouched, with no blood trace or evidence of predators, footprints, and there was a chemical-like odor that was left over. Another cow was found with a similar hole in its eye, a 6-inch hole about an inch deep carved out of its rectum with the same chemical odor. One cow seemed to have vanished from the snow where it was standing. The Shermans followed the hoof prints that led into the field, but the prints stopped. The area where the cow disappeared was surrounded by a circle of broken twigs and branches, and the tops of the trees appear to have been cut off, according to Sherman. Quote, I've got a neighbor over here who's reluctant to talk, but he told me that they've had trouble since he was a small kid, and now he's probably 55. He told me people will think you're crazy, but you're not. If you are, then we both have the same problem. So I will say that cattle mutilations have been reported since the 1950s and have been investigated by the FBI, but nobody has ever been caught, which is the weird thing about cattle mutilations, because usually there's no blood left over, which is weird, because you would think if it was an animal, there would be blood everywhere, right? You would see some sort of evidence that an animal had been there, some sort of prints that they could follow. And the fact that if this is a person that's doing this, nobody has ever been caught. I don't know if you guys have looked at any of the cattle mutilation pictures, but some of them it was just like
Precision.
right. I mean, just the head was left over on some of them, and then I think they even did studies. I watched it.
Not only was the head left over, but the entire spinal cord was intact.
Right.
Like not damaged in any way.
Yeah, I think George Knapp was talking about on Joe Rogan that they had done studies on some of these, and they could identify how this was cut up, and it was all with metallic tools. So another guy I want to talk about briefly is Joseph Hicks. I don't know if you guys came across him in your research, but he was a retired junior high school teacher in the area. And he had investigated more than 400 UFO sightings in the Uintah Basin since the early 1950s. So Hicks said that there had been thousands of UFO reports during the time, and some had been associated with cattle mutilation. Hicks said that at least half a dozen witnesses have told him that they had seen living beings in the windows or portholes of UFOs. And Hicks estimated that over 10% of the population of the Uintah Basin had seen something. This is another thing that George Knapp talked about, was when he went to that area, almost everyone he came in contact with had seen some sort of UFO or had some sort of experience that was unexplainable. And this is actually the guy who Terry Sherman first went to when he started having these issues.
Have you guys heard or have any belief whatsoever, and I don't mean to cut you off, Brett.
No, you're good.
About, have you heard of the term ley lines in the world?
You talked about them in relation to
Stonehenge
and
The pyramids.
the pyramids.
and one more. I'll come to him in a minute, but yes.
Guess what
Bermuda
else is-
Triangle, right?
What?
Was it Bermuda Triangle in it?
No.
Okay.
It was not. You know what else is in
Crop
the
circles.
ley lines? Crop circles, which is Stonehenge,
Yes,
because a lot of
area.
them are, yeah. Guess what else is right on one of those ley lines?
Skinwalker Ranch.
Skinwalker Ranch. Just want to throw that
That's
out there.
crazy. Yeah.
And for those that don't know, ley lines, huh?
Yeah, explain to him.
A ley line is basically a hypothetical alignment of landmarks said to possess mystical energy and or to be used by UFOs and UFO for navigation purposes. The what are the lines down in Peru? The what are those called?
I have no idea.
Really? Oh my gosh. The big lines of animal shapes that you can only see from the air that were made way before airplanes, blimps, or whatever.
Nazca lines.
The Nazca lines. Those are also part of a ley line system. The people in the community think that those were navigation points for UFOs pre-modern human, if you
Right.
will. So, Skinwalker Ranch is on one of those ley lines.
That's pretty cool. And it not just Skinwalker Ranch, but this whole entire area has had witnesses of, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring up Joseph Hicks. It's not just Skinwalker Ranch. This whole area has been a UFO hotbed for, at least since the 1950s, if not before then.
It has. And this is the thing about the great Southwest of the United States. We know now for sure that Area 51 is there. Area 51 is an area that develops, and that's where they test the most secret of secret airplanes. The F-117 was developed there and was unleashed before anyone was a lot of people. If you look up and you see an F-117, you think alien. Okay, same thing with a B-2 stealth bomber. It's a flying wing. You look up, you see an alien, right? That was also developed at Area 51. So there are legitimate things that are being developed and happening at Area 51. But the question becomes, what are those a result of? It's a big step to go from an F-14 Tomcat to an F-117 Nighthawk, I think is what their designation is. That's a huge step in technology. That's almost like going from a home phone to an Apple, 14 Pro Max.
Yeah.
That's huge. And they wonder, the question becomes, where does that technology come from? Now, if you're Jerry, that comes from human engineering and the ability and the wanting to just be better. If you're a Steve or a Brett, that comes from we are learning this technology at a very advanced rate from being able to reverse engineer something, which I know so much that Brett or Jerry wants to bring up Bob Lazar into this episode.
Now, I want to bring up ley lines.
We
You
can do
mentioned the
ley lines, too.
Skinwalker ranch is on a ley
Sure.
line. How many ley lines are in the United States?
I have no idea.
I mean,
didn't
are
know
they
that.
common?
No,
Not very common?
I wouldn't think so.
I have no idea.
I want to share a screen with you, okay? Is that all right?
Yeah.
Well, don't, because you're going to hit the mic and you will absolutely.
Well, no, you can share it on here. There it is. Look at that.
There's the ley lines in the United States of America. So at this point, I'm kind of like,
Oh,
what
my
is
gosh.
not on a ley line?
Right.
I'm not for sure. When you first said it, and I actually believe in ley lines, I believe there's something to them. When you look at ancient, historical, great things that were built, just far too many of them are on ley lines. But when you look at this, I'm like, what isn't on a ley line in America?
So is it direct? Is the fact that it's directly on the line, or is it just in the vicinity of a line? Because yeah, like you said, if you look at
There's
this
a whole lot of
picture,
lines.
it's the whole United States. There's not
I'm
much
just
area
saying
that's
we
not
need to
covered
keep that. The only reason I brought it up, I'm not disputing what you said. I was kind of like you. I thought they were relatively rare. According to this, like Brett said, apparently for those of you who aren't watching our show, if you Google ley lines in the United States, Pinterest has got a map that shows the United States, and there's pretty much ley lines everywhere. So at this point, I'm not for sure what significance that has. But anyway, I thought it was worth
No, that's
mentioning.
100% worth
Now.
bringing up.
Let me see how. First time I'd ever shared a screen. I'm not for sure I know how to unshare.
You just
Stop.
Yep.
Sorry to interrupt. Please continue.
I was reading the difference between vortex lines and ley lines. That's why I was doing.
so if you look, like it there are ley lines that go across, but it looks like it comes at an intersection in Utah.
Now, I do remember, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, that is far more paramount than being on a ley line, is being at the intersection of ley lines.
Yes.
And you can see Utah is in dead center of one of them. So like right beside Salt Lake City.
Wonder how much we can zoom in.
And I'm not sure where. I guess we can look. But
There are
No, you're
at
not.
least two closed off airspaces near ley lines because of weirdness that happens. One is near the Grand Tetons Mystery in Wyoming. The other one is near Wonder Spot, Wisconsin, which is weird.
I
So-
think there is something to ley lines. I really do. Just there's too much weird stuff that have happened on them, and especially at intersections of ley lines. I'm not going to pretend that understand it. I'm just saying I think there is something to ley lines.
Don't disagree with that. There's too many things in the world that rest right under or at an intersection of ley lines. But there is also a definite, maybe there's a need for us to do a show on ley lines because there is such a interest there because there are so many things that flow on those.
So it looks like the intersection is west of where
Ranch.
Skinwalker Ranch is located.
Another good name for it.
Skin City.
Skin City.
That sounds awesome.
No, that's a little to the south
Yeah,
and
so
to the
Las
left.
Steve would know.
I've never been to Las Vegas.
Which
Me
what's,
neither.
you know what's cool is like we talked about the Phoenix Lights. They're on a ley line, and just southwest of Phoenix is a huge intersection of ley lines. So there might be something there.
I definitely think that there's something there. I'm like Jerry. I think that there's something to ley lines. What that is, I don't know. And I just wanted to bring it up because most of the time when we talk about a spot on Earth, when we would, and by we, I mean us three doing a show, we're talking about the pyramids. We're talking about Stonehenge. We're talking about the Nazca lines down in Peru, all on ley lines.
Yeah.
Any weird spot that has weird stuff and that's not just land based. The Go Fast that was recorded by the Navy officers, also on a ley line. The coast off of California, where sightings are happening almost on a daily basis in the water and above the water on a ley line.
Yeah.
Just something to be considered. That's all.
No, it's definitely an interesting talking point for sure. Yeah, like you said, I think we definitely should do an episode on it.
If you would like to see an episode on ley lines, let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
Also, just in case you didn't know, if you comment something on our YouTube, if you comment something on Twitch, well, not Twitch. If you comment on YouTube or come on and listen to one of our shows on Spotify or Apple, and we get that you've commented, you're probably going to get a response saying, hey, send us your email or your home address. We're going to send you some swag because we get better by your comments.
Yeah, sure.
So we want to reward that and be able to share that with you. So just throwing it out there.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you guys think?
I think that we need to stick with your nickname, Skin Ranch.
Skin City?
Skin City, sorry. Skin City. It's also, we didn't mention this, I don't think, but a nickname that it has had in the past is UFO Ranch.
Right.
Skin City's far better.
I feel like Skin City. We should rename Las Vegas Skin City. So I think some of the things that I kind of, to reiterate what Jerry was saying, some of the things that I kind of struggled with was, one was the sheriff reports saying that they had never received a report on any sort of cow mutilation or UFO activity. Again, I think you make a good point that, especially in 1996, it's probably not going to do a sheriff too good to be like, oh yeah, we get all kinds of cattle mutilation reports and UFO activity. And
I wouldn't vote for that crazy guy.
right.
So you're right. Putin covered it up.
So another thing is the National Institute of for Discovery Science, founded by Robert Bigelow, who owned Skinwalker Ranch Skinwalker Ranch for a bit. He never really found anything that was conclusive.
Or at least if he didn't release it.
And I was looking at again that podcast with George Knapp. He was talking about.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
If you own Skinwalker Ranch and you do find something, okay, you do not have the security that Area 51 has.
Right.
How would you? Oh, this is a huge ranch, almost 600 acres, 500 and
480.
I'm showing 520,
Okay.
5 something like that.
Right. I had 512.
Yeah, some of the. I mean, it varies, but we'll just say over 400 acres. why would you ever report it? Because you're not going to
Because
be
you
able,
want the value of your property to go up, and there's
Oh, it'd
nothing in
go
the
way
world.
up. Yeah.
it would go up, but also
The last
so
two buyers
would the.
bought it because of these reports.
Here's the thing, Jerry, and I don't know. Every law, every state has different laws regarding injury and stuff. You do that. You report it. Joe Baloney hops your fence, runs up, breaks his leg because he's trying to see something that you said was there, and now sues you because he has a broken leg.
Well, from what they were saying, it's you basically have one access point to the property. I mean, you have to basically pass through the house, and like you said, I mean, there might be there. I'm sure there are people who do that.
Absolutely. There's people that do that here in Lawrenceburg because they want to go hunting or fishing in your pond that's not access
Yeah.
to the road.
There's people who do that because they want to get a Pokemon on Pokemon Go.
Yes. I mean, it's that ridiculous in today's world. That's all I'm saying. I'm
Here's
just,
what I'm saying.
why would you
Robert
report
Bigelow
that?
and Brandon Fugel bought this because they had bought into the hype. They believed it. They believed it enough to not try to write some fake fiction book. They began paying money to do scientific investigations. Why would you go to all that trouble and all that expense and release nothing?
Because the government says, hey, we
I'm
appreciate
sorry.
you found that, but we're not ready for that to be released yet.
Well, so one thing that I heard George Knapp claim because in his podcast with Joe Rogan was basically like, I don't see any evidence for this. He basically thought it was, and Joe Rogan's pretty. Yeah, he's pretty big on a lot of conspiracies, but he said this one was like it didn't make sense to him.
I'm so proud that Joe's fine. You know, he's garnering as many viewers as he has. He's finally catching up. It makes me
Finally.
so happy. It's like when you take your kids swimming for the first time and you throw them in and you have to save them because they don't quite get it, so you throw them again, and then they finally get it and you're proud. You have that proud parent moment. It's wonderful. I'm so happy.
I know. Joe's
Anyway,
growing
sorry.
up. But George Knapp was talking about how like I guess they had claimed that they'd set up cameras and the cameras would be fine 1 second and then it would just black out, or they would have a lot of activity in this one area and set up a camera there and then it would happen in a whole another area. So what he was claiming was that they were seeing stuff, but that they had, it was almost like the UFOs or whatever is causing these incidents. They knew where the cameras were set up and they were avoiding them purposefully. So I'm not saying that's really for or against, but it's just a noteworthy thing that George Knapp talked about. So according to Wikipedia, and I guess it was confirmed in a podcast I was listening to with the current owner, Skinwalker Ranch. Terry Sherman worked on the ranch as a caretaker after it was sold to Bigelow. So Terry Sherman sold the property because he was so scared to even to live there with his wife and his two kids. But again, he stayed on to take care of the land, which I guess you could see it going either way. It kind of makes sense for him to take care of it after it was sold. But also, if you're so terrified that you have to get rid of this land immediately, are you really going to want to stay and take care of it? I don't know. So yeah, I don't know if we are you guys ready to kind of see if this is newsworthy or not, or do you
Yeah,
guys
let's
have any
do
more?
it.
So
Yeah, go. Let's do it.
do you have anything else?
Well, I did, but
Oh no, that's
cover.
no,
for sure.
it literally curtails what you guys both covered, so we're good.
Are you sure?
Yep.
So, in my opinion, I'm of the opinion that there's not enough evidence for this to be. I don't know necessarily that this is true. I just don't have enough evidence for it. I think that it's newsworthy in the fact that it was big enough that the Department of Defense invested $22 million to study it. I think it's newsworthy that again that this family had all these eyewitness accounts of what happened, but the fact that we've spent all this money and done all this research on it and haven't found anything is kind of disappointing to me. I'm not going to lie. I will say that I think that if they did find something, that the government would shut it up. I do believe that. So again, I'm kind of on the fence here. So I'm gonna give it a thumbs up because I think it's interesting, and I think that it, especially with all the sightings that have happened around Skinwalker Ranch, not just Skinwalker Ranch in general, but the area as a whole, I think that it's newsworthy just for that. So I'm gonna give it one thumbs up.
I will go next because we're going to leave Jerry's great opinion for last. You said that if there was something, the government would cover it up. I 100% agree with you. You also said that you didn't see any evidence that it existed or that there was anything there. And for that, I would also disagree with you.
Yeah.
And here's the reason why. We had zero evidence that the F-117 was in creation. And when pictures of it started to escape, started to leak, what did the government do? It shut it up.
Right.
Now, I understand that the two could be construed as two totally different scenarios.
Could be
No,
a top secret military jet that we need to remain secret at all costs compared to
the technology in which we are recovering the top secret military jets devices from. That's what I'm getting at.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you mention anything about military jets being in this area. So you're now saying that we're recovering evidence from them?
No, I'm saying that even though you are a skeptic, S4, in my opinion, does exist. The research in reverse engineering of technology involving alien crash ships does exist. And you don't, even as great as we think we are as the human race, I don't think we take the steps we take without some sort of outside interference. Is that at Skinwalker Ranch? I don't know, maybe. But I'd like to think that that has a possibility. It's in the same general geocode, if you will. And I happen to believe that even if aliens landed on the White House lawn today, the government would try every single way in the world to cover that up and keep it from the general public. And Skywalker Ranch is zero different.
Skywalker Ranch.
I'm sorry, Skinwalker.
He said the same thing earlier.
I know. It's a Star Wars thing. I love it.
I called it Skywalker Ranch?
Huh? You did.
Yeah, you did.
You
totally did. But Skinwalker Ranch, if that happens, see, here's the thing. It comes down to a few things for me that makes me believe this. The government, in all its catastrophe and all its excess spending $900 on a hammer, whatever the case, you're not going to spend $22 million to investigate 400 acres on your own soil if you don't believe there's something.
Right.
Regardless of what I think, the sheriff's proclamations are a little bit wishy-washy.
Yeah.
I've seen the pictures of the cow mutilation. Unless there's a veterinarian doctor going out and removing all the parts of the cow in order to have a great meal with his family, that didn't happen organically.
Right.
If it were wild animals, like you said, there's blood, there's fur, there's everything everywhere, and there's just not. Period. What did these people have to literally gain other than increased value in their land, which I believe, if I'm saying, hey, this is a bunch of crazy stuff going on, all I'm doing is inviting people. We had a whole movement not 3 years ago of people that thought it was a great idea to rush Area 51, which has signs on it all over the place saying, if you come on here, we have the right to kill you.
Nick was saying he was going for a while.
Yes.
I know, I remember that.
Okay? If you come here, we will kill you. We will shoot you dead. You don't have those protections here. So if you did find something, the last thing I'm going to do is tell somebody about it. Yeah. That's my thing. So I give it a big thumbs up. Does that make me crazy, creepy, conspiracy theorist? Maybe I'll take that title. But I that's my reasoning for it.
And I said there was no evidence. There is evidence. There's eyewitness accounts. So that counts as evidence.
And sometimes it's all you get.
Right.
It puts people in hell. It's put eyewitness account has put people to death in this country.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And our memories are proven to this point to be non-reliable.
Yeah.
It's the way our brain works. It doesn't remember what you saw. It remembers the last time you remember what you saw.
Right.
That's how you get the game of telephone in your head where it doesn't quite make sense.
Right.
So I don't put a lot of stock in that. So 2 big thumbs up for Steve. Jerry?
I want to start by addressing a couple of things you mentioned. You said that you didn't believe our government would spend $22 million unless they had good reason.
That's
to do
true.
so.
That's probably an overstatement of the year. You're probably right.
Just as one, and if you want more, I'll give you more. Just
one's
as
good.
one proof that our government is certainly capable of far stupider things and far more recent times. In 2023, our United States government spent $6 million to boost Egyptian tourism. Once again, we spent $6 million to boost Egyptian
We spent
tourism.
$20 million to teach the Guatemalans how to not have hate toward trans
So do you
people.
really think that the fact that we spent $20 million, my point is simply, and I know you and I agree, because our physical stupidity in the United States for a long time is the biggest danger we have to our national security.
100%. You'll never convince me otherwise.
Yes, 100%.
Our national debt is our greatest weakness.
100%. And that's what will kill America if we don't do something about it. I'm not a big Trump
Because
fan,
of
but at
things
least
like this.
him and Musk is trying to, yes, but at least he and Musk are trying to do something about it. You also mentioned that you believe that the lack of evidence can be attributed to government cover-up, whatever. And I made fun of it by saying Putin, but here's the point. That same reasoning, that same rationale would lead you to say that anything and everything is believable. The government just covered it up. You can't, there has to be something. And here's the problem. I agree with Brett. This one has nothing. No evidence. None. There's literally just guys buying it and saying, we believe this and we're going to prove it to you. And we're going to conduct scientific investigations and we're going to prove to the world. Nothing.
I can give you an example.
Go ahead.
As to where the government would interject because it may interfere with their plans. It may
You can give me an
interfere-
example of where the government might try. You cannot convince me that the government is going to these people ahead of time and saying, we're going to kill you if you say anything to the contrary. They don't do that.
No.
So what would stop them from holding a press conference and releasing to prove that they're right, that what they've been claiming all these years is true?
Well, it goes back to the same thing. It's responsibility if somebody gets on there and breaks their leg, and then you're
In that case, why did you buy it and and pay all the money for scientific investigations? You knew that ahead of time. These are not stupid people, right?
Right.
So they knew that ahead of time. But my point is, you got to have something. For me to buy in, for me to give it a half a thumbs up, I've got to have something. I'm just too logical. And in this one, it's not there. I'm no different than Joe Rogan. I just don't see the evidence in it. I've got to have something. So for me, it would be 2 thumbs down.
Wow. Well, there you go, fellas, gentlemen, ladies in the audience.
Back
What do
to
you
a
think?
more normal show. Last couple, we all agreed, I think unanimously. This one,
Yeah.
jury has been the.
What do you
sports
think,
board.
folks? Let us know in the comments.
Please do.
Skinwalker Ranch, crazy stuff, or just a big old patch of sand and cactus in Utah desert? I don't know. What do you think? Who knows? Brett, you did a good job tonight, sir. Good job. That was an interesting episode, but our journey isn't over yet. If you stay tuned, we have an exciting bonus story coming up after this commercial break.
Hi, this is Ed Locke with USA Mortgage. When it comes to buying a home, the process can be overwhelming and confusing. With so many options, it can be hard to know where to start. That's why it's important to work with a certified mortgage loan originator. I have the knowledge and expertise to guide you through the process and find the best mortgage option for you. I will work with you every step of the way to ensure that you are getting the best deal possible. So if you're looking to purchase or refinance, please reach out to me at 502-680-0953. So don't take on the stress of buying a home alone. Work with me and I will make your dream a reality. Trust the professionals and make your home buying experience a positive one. MLS ID 448908, DAS Acquisition Company, LLC, doing business as USA Mortgage, MLS ID 227262. This is not a commitment to lend. Additional terms and conditions apply. USA Mortgage is equal housing opportunity.
If you would like to share suggestions for future episodes, an intriguing ghost story, or simply tell us how much you love or hate us, please get in touch with us. You can reach us via email at newsworthywithstephencherry@gmail.com or send us a text at area code 540-709-1318.
And now, back to the story. Few mythical creatures have shown up as in many folklore tales across the many countries around the entire world as gnomes. The widespread nature of the folklore stories of these strange creatures, appearing in old tales from Ireland all the way to Japan, is part of what makes them unique. Said to be just a few inches tall and capable of all kinds of magical miracles, gnomes were believed to be the protectors of gardens, trees, and of all plant life. Though much of the Renaissance periods, gnomes were thought to be the reasons for many of the as yet unexplained plant germination and growth of phenomena. Most folklore that refers to gnome like beings originates primarily in Switzerland and France, as well as all of the countries in Scandinavia. Man, whew, that was tough. However, there are some special references in Japanese culture of similar beings to the European gnome, known as yokai. According to tradition, gnomes were responsible for many of the hidden processes of plant life and were important symbols to Northern European farmers. With that in mind, it makes perfect sense that it became a popular garden ornament in Germany and throughout the world in the mid 1800s when Philip Geibel made the first garden gnome from terracotta clay. In addition to being the caretakers, good gravy, of plants, trees, gardens, and other flora, gnomes were also believed to be excellent craftspeople. They were thought to be good at making tools, jewelry, boots, and there were even some gem cutters and blacksmiths. I actually interviewed a guy just the other day that swears he saw a bunch of gnomes going fishing in his own pond.
Really?
I can't wait to have him on Encounters.
That's awesome.
And Jerry, if you can't see the light,
Be the light. Is he the one up the road that we're talking about going to his place? That's what I thought.